And what's interesting to me is when you go out to acquire a company here, it does relate to the less controversial parts of the crypto market. Of course, that is U.S. Treasuries. It's related to stablecoins. As there is a big hope here from the crypto industry that we will see more stablecoin regulation come out of Congress in this next cycle, how quick do we get it, and what does it mean for your business now that you've expanded?
Look, I think the stablecoin legislation is top of the list for agenda items to work on. I think the congressional leaders that are responsible are focused on this. And so, we're hearing that from major stakeholders everywhere, whether it's payments companies, banks, the crypto industry. And so we're excited to see that evolve. And likewise, as you noted, our business is evolving as well. As we've tokenized cash with USDC. We want to tokenize treasury bills and money markets and kind of be the money layer on the internet. And so this acquisition of Hashnote and the largest TMMF in the world, USYC, really adds to the core capabilities that we have of bringing money on chain.
Jeremy, on legislation, crypto yesterday not mentioned in the president's inaugural address. We haven't seen any executive orders related to crypto yet. We did see some on immigration, trade, energy, TikTok. Are you concerned at all that, given what we saw in the last 24 hours, this isn't necessarily as much of a priority for the president as many had thought?
Not at all. I expect to see executive orders, and I expect to see key agenda items here. There's a lot to do, and I expect the Trump administration to continue to be in the limelight with a lot of action. And obviously, we're going to start seeing action from the regulatory agencies, action in Congress. And so I think you'll see that out of the White House as well.
Well, it's interesting. You have a few things going on at the same time. You have the Biden administration really going against congressional decision-making here when it came to Staff Accounting Bulletin number 121. Of course, that this would be addressing rules around accounting for the crypto industry. At Davos, it's been reported that you've been talking about how this might be one of the first things that is addressed. And if it is, what does it really unlock?
Well, I mean, I think it was in the policy platform for President Trump, and I know it's a major issue for industry and certainly within the broader Republican leadership. And so my expectation is that we will see that repealed, whether that's by executive order. I don't know the legality of how all these things are done, to be frank, but I do think that will be repealed. And just as you heard from the CEO of State Street, Ron O'Hanley, banks need this clarity and corporations need this clarity so they can hold crypto assets on their balance sheets and provide custody and do other things and not have it be punitive, which really SAB 121 has been punitive in many respects and is a huge headache for public companies. And so I think making this all more capital markets friendly, custodian friendly, financial institution friendly is going to take place.
Well, the president has been in office only for about 24 hours at this point, Jeremy, and we're already getting quite a bit of news when it comes to areas that I know are a focus to you. The president has tapped acting chairs for the SEC, for CFTC, and the FDIC. On the SEC, Mark Uyeda will serve as the SEC's acting chair until President Donald Trump installs a permanent head. What do you think of that pick? And do you think we see moves quickly ahead of a permanent pick for the SEC?
I think very highly of Mark and, of course, Commissioner Pierce. And I know she's, active, very active with the crypto industry and has called today, I believe, for some specific engagements. I know acting Commissioner Pham on the CFTC side similarly. And so, Mark laid out, I think, a roadmap for what he wanted to see happen, even on an interim basis. And so we'll see if he carries forward with that. But I think he's an excellent choice as this interim chair.
Jeremy, I want to go back to where we started the discussion, this acquisition of Hashnote, largest issuer here of tokenized treasuries. You mentioned first comes regular way money, and then comes the expansion into treasuries. But then what about the future? Because does it set the stage here for what a lot of Wall Street is looking at, more tokenized bonds? Can you start to look at a scenario here where Circle gets into the business of tokenized corporate debt as well?
Well, look, I think, we want to be the money layer of the internet, and, kind of money. And as we think about money, sort of collateral money, treasury money, cash money, that's really the opportunity we see. And I think having a framework and having, tokenized cash and tokenized treasuries through these structures is a huge unlock to bringing more of capital markets on chain. And so, a huge focus for us is improving the way that collateral works in digital asset markets, but also importing the way on-chain money, including USDC, USYC, can we bring those into traditional finance and the operation of how capital markets work in traditional finance? And I think if we can get those things up and running and scaling, that really does pave the way for a huge range of other types of tokenized assets. But we're not in the business of issuing other assets. We want to focus on the money layer of the internet.
Jeremy, does that roadmap, do those priorities involve other future acquisitions?
We're I think a sizable company with an important footprint, and we have a huge ecosystem of partners and developers and all around the world. And so as we build the company, we've made acquisitions in the past. Some of those are really key technologies and products in our broader portfolio today. And so, we are always evaluating, opportunities to acquire great teams, opportunities to grow in new lines of business, and we'll continue to look at opportunities as any player would.
Jeremy, another big question in the market is IPO plans. Do you have any update on how quickly you can get to market?
Look, I mean, all I can really say is we're very committed to becoming a global publicly traded company in U.S. markets. We think that the Circle is known, and why so many companies do business with us is because of our trust, transparency, good governance, compliance, and ethical decision making. Those are key parts of who Circle is, and I think becoming a global publicly listed company just deepens all of those and is really additive to the company's business and what we're trying to accomplish. And so very committed to that path, but of course I can't make any comments on regulatory timelines or anything like that.